Welcome back to Liberty and Finance. We're privileged to have this opportunity to bring forward a whistleblower in the precious metals IRA industry who is working for a high-pressure, non-competitive, and predatory pricing dealer that we have heard stories from many of our clients is all too common in that industry. It actually started 2 years ago when I interviewed Catherine Austin Fitz on our channel and posted her video, and she later complained to me that her video was posted up alongside interviews that I had done with a representative of another dealership who she had personal testimonies from multiple clients who had been hurt badly financially from working with that dealership, who had put a lot of undue pressure on widows and on other people with their entire retirement savings and pressured them into buying very high-priced, collectible and rare gold coins, for example, among other things, with the promise that this is doing what the rich people are doing, and therefore you're going to come out better in the end, and these are going to be non-confiscatable, and so on. And Catherine Austin Fitz looked me in the eye, and this was at Rob Kirby's house, and said to me, "You know you're doing wrong. You know you're hurting people by what you're doing, and I don't appreciate putting my video up next to these other videos and giving them in the same space." So I stopped interviewing that other representative from that other dealership because I kept hearing these stories from clients saying that they've been hurt in that way. And it wasn't very often that I was hearing reports like that, but just in the past 6 months or so, and especially in the last 2 months, I've been hearing with increasing frequency from more and more clients who call and I ask, "Have you ever worked with Miles Franklin before?" And they say, "No, but I did work with this other dealership," and they tell me this horrifying story of having been taken to the cleaners and taken advantage of and charged anywhere from 50% to 100% to 250% premiums on silver, and as that high on gold as well. And sometimes with these pressures to buy oddball fractional coins or strange sizes or proof sets or coins from strange countries. Just today, I received a follow-up from a client who had purchased over $440,000 of St. Helena Marlin's 1.25 ounce silver coins is what had been sold her by this dealer for her IRA at a price that was more than double what the fair price should have been for an ordinary silver bullion coin. And now she has had an unfortunate series of events and need to liquidate some of her IRA and have them sent to her distribution. And she's getting less than half of what she put in. She's getting $215,000 out where she put $441,000 in just a short time ago. And it's just so painful to see this kind of thing happening over and over again. Some of the principles that we've seen over and over from these are these IRA-only dealers or dealers who pressurize their sales process to push rare or highly, what they say, highly collectible or proof or first stamping sets, and also strange sizes like 3/4 of an ounce or 1 1/4 ounce silver coins, or saying they're higher purity than normal, that sort of thing. All of these excuses to sell something that's difficult to price compare and is at an inordinate high premium compared to ordinary bullion that you can get from any normal dealer, which is perfectly acceptable for an IRA. The IRA eligibility requirements are not complicated. This basically just has to do with the purity of the metal. Typically 3/9 fine or better. It depends on which metal, but it's not a complicated. It does not need to be special. And also, for them to promise that they can sell you something that's non-confiscatable is something I don't believe anybody can promise, because we don't know what actions the government may take in the future based on what's happened recently or what's happened in the past. We've certainly seen some drastic changes in what governments have changed the rules on the fly with no regard to the Coinage Act of 1792 or the U.S. Constitution or the convertibility that's printed right on the gold certificate or silver certificate bills that they had issued. All of that just been abrogated with a stroke of a pen. So for some dealer to promise that if you pay 5 to 10 times normal amount for metals that you're going to be sure that they can't be confiscated is, in my view, unrealistic and something that's just a sales tactic. And we've also seen lots of reports from people who've dealt with these kind of companies saying that they're high-profile celebrity spokespersons, whether it's a retired member of Congress whether it's a retired sports star, whether it's a retired television star or movie star, some are athlete. They've got some big name, absolutely everybody knows the name, celebrity spokesperson saying, I trust them, or they have saying that their management is made up of former directors from the Mint or from other branches of government that should have lots of understanding and knowledge of the internals of the banking industry, that sort of thing, to lend credibility. But we've heard from this whistleblower who came forward to us that things are much different from how they're made to look on those advertisements, where people are led to believe that they need to deal with these very glamorously promoted companies who then make excuses for why they're charging multiples of fair prices for the metals that they're selling. And in the end, basically swindling people into losing a majority of the value of their life savings in their IRA by selling them such expensive things that when they go to retrieve their money at time of distribution, if they do to cash out on any of those metals, it's very difficult for them to get a fair return on what they put in, return of their money. And this whistleblower got into the industry because after a multi-decade career in banking, because he had come to believe that he needed to help people get into solid assets, sound money. And he wanted to join a company that was doing that. And he thought because of the glamorous public-facing image of this company that he was joining, that he would be able to join a trustworthy company. And after joining, he found out that things were quite different from what he expected. The pressures that he was put under, the incentives that he was placed under, the ongoing grilling from management on why aren't you selling more of the expensive stuff to our clients, the examples set by coworkers of putting lots of pressure on people to make a decision right now and to take action right now, was concerning and then chilling to him. And he's been, together with his wife, talking seriously about whether he should even go on there. He figures at least he can do good while he's there, but he's absolutely bucking the trend, swimming against the stream, and getting sanctioned by management for not pushing the high price things that they want him to be pushing. And it's all too common a story, but he's here to tell us his story directly and personally. And we're going to go now to that interview with our industry insider in non-competitive and predatory practices of a major dealership who are pushing people in ways that causes them to lose a significant value of their lifetime savings. So I hope you appreciate and learn a lot from this whistleblower testimony as I did, and we'll transition to that right now. So we are here with a very privileged opportunity to interview an industry insider and whistleblower in the precious metals market who came forward to me when, having heard our discussions on Liberty and Finance about concerns expressed by clients and how they'd been treated and the outcomes that they experienced from working with certain dealers that applied very non-competitive and pressurized tactics to get them to essentially overpay for metals that they bought, particularly for IRAs. And I'm just grateful for this individual having come forward and offered to tell his story. So our whistleblower from the inside of the IRA precious metals industry, thank you for coming forward, and thank you for joining us on Liberty and Finance.
I appreciate the opportunity to come forward. It's important for me, since just a little background to make sure people realize I'm just not here grinding an axe against anybody specifically, but a lot of things that I've seen. I came out of the banking industry after 20 years, and I came out to try to make a difference. I came in specifically to do IRAs for people who could take their money out of the banking system, because I've seen what's been going on for the last couple of years and where it was headed. And I wanted to make a difference. And I knew that this is probably the best place and opportunity for me to help make a difference, because I realize what a fiduciary responsibility is to watch out for your customers. In the banking system, obviously, there's a lot of rules and regulations about protecting the customer, especially when it comes more to the elderly and people who are advancing in age. And really, that's where I came in I looked directly to help in the self-directed IRAs where you could take part of your retirement savings and put it into an IRA where you could hold physical gold and silver. And so as I went down this journey, I realized they were doing that, but at the same time, they were slamming the customers, the elderly, into things they shouldn't be in. And if I get ahead of myself, just redirect me. It's all right.
Well, yeah. So I did want to know what brought you into this industry, because it sounds like this has been a couple of years for you. It sounds like you were wanting to help people acquire tangible, physical, intrinsically valuable assets for their own financial protection.
Yeah. I've been buying gold and silver for myself and for friends and family for 33 years. And so this is, they call it, not my first rodeo. And so I saw where things were going, and I left on purpose the banking industry, and because I wanted to make a difference, because I saw a couple of years ago, and you and some other people on YouTube had shown where things were leading, and I saw this a couple of years ago myself. So I decided to come and make what I was wanting to make a difference to help people. Like I have friends and family who are, in their 60s or 70s and some in their 80s, to take the money out of the banking system, because we all know where that's headed right now, and take it into, so they'd have it outside of the banking industry so they could be protected and not be in fiat money. And that's what brought me to where I am. So
you signed up with a company that, as I understand, we're not going to be naming names of any companies or any of the famous spokespeople that are in there. But as I mentioned in the intro, there seems to be, based on what I keep getting reported to me from different clients and others who are some podcasters and several clients, that when they feel like they've been done wrong and really been taken to the cleaners, it's often, not always, but often with a company that has the most polished looking ads and the most polished looking brochures and the high profile celebrity spokespeople. There's been some celebrities from professional sports retirees, some from the entertainment industry, some from retired politicians, big name, top name spokespeople, celebrity spokespeople that really give an air of stability and trustworthiness to these companies. In fact, some companies even have like founding members who are on their board of directors or whoever in high management there that have worked previously in very high positions, either in the banking industry or the treasury or the Fed or that sort of thing. So it really lends an aura of stability and trustworthiness, and that really tends to open the door to pull people in to entrust these people with their life savings, their retirement funds. And then after that opening of the door, they sometimes experience a fairly high pressure sales experience where they're being guided and coached and directed into costly investments of various types. Could you talk to us about, what you assumed would be your opportunity coming into this role versus the reality that you encountered where you were then being asked to guide people into certain types of investments rather than others?
Most certainly, yeah. When I came into this, I was just coming into this believing it would just be bullion purchases of either gold or silver, bars and coins, however the customer wanted, because obviously there's a lot of options when it comes to all of the above. And so when I got in, realizing that they were offering bullion, they offer bullion, gold and silver, but they're also pushing proof coins. And it came to the point to where they're really pushing proof coins more than they were and are the bullion coins. And as I'm not sure, I know that your listeners are well learned because you do a great job, and so do some of the other guests you have on your show, to explain what are the difference between bullion and proof coins. And so you have for an example, you have a 70-year-old customer who's, maybe they're getting pushed 70% into proof coins and 30% into bullion. Obviously, if they're not at the age where they have to take their distributions, but let's say they need some of that money back, they're not going to be able to get back what the value of the proof coins are if they haven't had it for very long. Just based on obviously where the price of metals are at that point in time. And when you have companies giving guarantees, oh, Mr. Customer, if you buy these proof coins, which are exclusively minted, by the way, by some companies, and they're not from the United States Mint or other government mints, but being created as exclusive minted coins, and they're being put in these people's accounts at values that are 3 and 4 times over what the normal price of gold eagles are, American gold eagles. And they give a guarantee. Well, when it comes time for you to get your distributions, we guarantee that you'll get at least as much as what you put into it, regardless where the price of gold is in the future. And the reality of it is you can't give guarantees. It's one of the first things you learn in the banking industry. There's no such thing as a guarantee when it comes to investments. And because if you bought it at whatever price and 3 or 4 years later the price is down, it just isn't right, because it becomes sort of typically like a kind of a Ponzi scheme to a point. Because in those Ponzi schemes, you have to continually buy more and more and more, hoping that in the future people will only take, because when it comes to distributions required at 72 years of age or more, at that point, they're hoping that they get enough people so it'll just continue, and they can continue that down the road. And those are the things that I saw that I just immediately, as they're trying to push you down that avenue, that road, it's like, wait a minute, something's not right here. You say one thing in your advertisements, but really you're doing something different. Yeah, you're selling them gold and silver, but it's stuff that they don't really truly understand in many cases. And I hope that makes sense.
Yeah, and it, boy, so many things of what you said, it's hard to unpack it all at once, but I'll try a few different attacks at it. One is, you talked about these specialty items, whether they're proof sets or whatever, that are multiple times what the metal itself is worth, but the individual doesn't know that, or are they told, yes, this is maybe multiple times what the metal value is, but that's the current special premium value for that because it's special and it's likely to go up in the future or something. How are you told to convince the client that they should pay so much more than the price of gold or silver for something that's supposedly special?
For instance, if it's a specialty coin, then, oh wow, it's a rare mint production, so these are more valuable just because the mintage is much, much lower, so it makes it more valuable. And we recommend you hold it for a couple of years and not just turn around in a year or two, but for your longevity, it's good to hold them for as long as you can. They're explaining this to the customer because maybe they have 10 years until it's time for retirement. I don't know, but everybody's different. And so in that the way that arranges that it's just pushed out there, and that's how they want this stuff sold. Well, luckily, there is some saving respect from the aspect that you can guide the customer one way or the other, and you can say, hey, I don't think you should be so heavily weighted in this. Let's go back down into bullion. So there is some opportunity, but there's many companies that are just pushing for the proofs to be stuck in the retirement accounts. But at the same time, they say, oh, we're offering bullion. It's the customer's decision.
Okay. And as a salesperson in that role, kind of caught in between management and the client, do you have complete freedom and there's no consequence to you if you guide people into standard price bullion close to spot price? Or are there incentives and other pressures that are brought to bear on you from management to cause you to guide people into the more expensive stuff?
Oh yeah, most definitely. It's attributed to your pay. So the more proof you can put into like an account, the better your pay. If you're going into bullion only, it's dropped to the lowest tier there is. And so they're encouraged to sell as much proof coins or specialty coins that are considered proof coins that may not be minted by the United States Mint or other. And so it does affect the salesperson. And I hear, well, my job today is I'm going to be pushing all proof coins for all my customers. Where's the fiduciary responsibility of doing the right thing for the customer when it comes to that? It's just not there.
Right. That's one of the things I mentioned in the introduction. Is we were alerted to this originally by Catherine Austin Fitz, who's a well-known podcaster about our financial reality and political realities of our world. And she had been approached by multiple subscribers of hers who had sometimes some were widows and others retirees, who basically had their net worth cut in half or cut in a third or whatever by unscrupulous dealers who oversold them high-priced items. And when they then had a financial need and needed to liquidate, they found to their shock and surprise that the buyback prices they were able to get from dealers for those same items was just a fraction of what they had just been sold them for, not that long before. Is it just an incentive in your paycheck, or are there other sort of management pressures that are brought to bear on individuals, if on the sales team, if you don't guide people into these high-priced items?
It's all pay-based. And we'll give you an example. You have a 4-piece proof American Eagle set. If you put all the weight together, the value in weight, even currently and today, because I'm just talking about ounces right now. So if you look at the ounces might add up to $2,600 or $2,700 total. But if you look at what they're selling the proof sets for, $8,000, that's a big disparity. And if you took that same proof set out because something happened and a life event happened and you had to go sell it and it wasn't time for you to receive your distribution for retirement, you're going to have to take whatever you can get. And you're lucky if you get half of what you bought for it in the beginning. And there's no fiduciary responsibility because they're operating just for their own greed.
That kind of big loss on potential buyback is what I've been told time and again by people that said, yeah, I really got hurt, or I really got taken to the cleaners, or that sort of thing. And some people say, well, I just have to leave that alone. I got to not touch it for years and years and hope that eventually the spot price comes up and covers up for that. And that's almost a expectation that is set by some of the dealers that I've been told about, is that, yeah, well, in a rising market, even though you've paid higher than spot price for this, the spot price will eventually rise up and you'll be in the black on this. Is that part of the expectation that's set with people, that by holding for 5 or 10 years or something, then they'll be in the black and they'll be glad that they purchased this specialty item?
They don't use the exact words that you'll be where you need to be in 5 or 10 years, but that's part of what these buyback programs are. That when it comes to for your retirement distributions, we guarantee you'll get at least what you paid into it. So regardless of what the price of gold is in the future, if you buy these sets, and they don't say expensive sets, they just say, look, you're going to get this guarantee. So that's one of those guarantees that they give. That in the future, when it's time for you to get distributions for retirement, you're going to get at least what you put into it. And so my question there's no such thing as guarantees, because what if something happened, heaven forbid, that company went out of business? At that point, you can't keep that guarantee that you gave in the beginning, can you?
Right. That's what Bill Holter's famous quote is, and that came from Jim Sinclair, is, what's the value of a contract where the other party can't perform? And the answer being 0 is the value of a contract where the other party can't conform. In other words, they don't put it in terms of what I'm hearing in, hey, we'd like to transfer some risk onto you, some counterparty risk. So trust in the fact that we as a buyback company will not change our policy and stand behind this, and that we don't have any fine print that will allow us to wiggle out of this. And then we, if we're still around, will buy this back for you at the nominal price, so you don't lose nominally, however far in advance, 5 years or 10 years in the future, when it's time to take your distribution. But they're not telling people that instead of having the intrinsic value, which is why they were trying to get into precious metals in the first place, to reduce counterparty risk of the banks or counterparty risk of the government or whatever, they were trying to not have a dependent asset, but one that was independent of any other counterparty. And here they're being told, no, you go ahead and take on counterparty risk now. We'll be here for you in the future. Trust us. And that's where your future financial will make you whole in the future.
Yeah, they're not doing that. They're selling it. Oh, we're going to do this for you, Mr. Customer or Mrs. Customer. And they don't, when you're going by the fact that you believe who you're working with is trustworthy, and you're supposed to be able to be protected by those people, and you're not. A lot of people.
Speaking of that trustworthy aspect, how do you see the trustworthiness trying to be built and established in the first place, starting from a celebrity spokesperson and so on? Can you talk to us about some of the methods that are used to try to build that air of trustworthiness?
Yeah, you like you say, game show hosts that everybody knows who they are, who've been on TV for 20, 30 years. People who are in government, who may have worked at some of the mints around the world, or the United States Mint, putting these people in as the face of the companies. And so when you have these people, well, they obviously must be trustworthy if they're with these people. And, they've been open for 20, 25, 30 years. Well, and their customer list is maybe 1 million people or more. So they're putting their hopes, and which is interesting because their Better Business Bureau ratings are still A+, even though they have complaints against them. How does that work? I don't know. You have multiple complaints, which I will recommend everybody out there listening to this right now. When you want to talk to a new company or somebody you need to go check their Better Business Bureau ratings. What other kind of remarks are being talked about them, and the unsatisfied, just Google them to see and find out what's being said or not said. And at that point, if nothing's being said, that's a good thing. And if good things are being said, that's a good thing. But a lot of people are finding experiences that are not good, and they're writing about them. And yeah, these companies will respond, well, that was an accident or a mistake and this and that. Well, how many times is it an accident or a mistake until, what's that old adage? First time it's my mistake, second time, shame on you. It's like, so you need to do your homework. And it's not always easy because these people are calling in off of TV ads, off the internet, and in hospitals, and just off, people who are retired sitting at home watching TV during the day. So you got to do your homework, and if you're not sure, ask somebody who can help you look into the things that need to be looked into for their protection.
One of the clients who complained to me about her experience over the past several months dealing with a different company from the one that you're working for, said that she had been charged like 255% premium above the spot price of silver for just some odd-sized government minted silver coins, there's just no reason for that. And when she confronted the company that had sold her those and she came on strong and firm and assertive, they eventually offered to basically pay her back full value and make her whole. But they said if the spot price was back up to where it was when she had bought in. And that occurred to me that's if you operate this kind of a business where you're making enormous profits on most sales, if you do get some small percentage of customers who wake up and wise up and say, hey, you did me wrong, that actually just paying them out, just cashing them out to get rid of them and hush them up is actually a very clever, sort of a shrewd strategy, because they end up then not complaining to the Better Business Bureau. They're satisfied in the sense that they were made whole, and all your other ignorant uninformed 95% customers who you massively overcharge are still just bumping along. And so you're still making tremendous over profits, even if you have to buy off once in a while a disgruntled customer.
That's exactly correct. And I do know on occasion that I'm aware of that does happen. And I'm sure it's more than I understand too.
So as you got into this job, what was your awakening process where you go, wait a minute, this just doesn't seem right, until you became convinced that this was rotten to the core? And it's even questioned, you were telling me, is you've even questioned whether it's something that you can continue, because the whole purpose that drew you to this was to be able to help people. And now you were saying that if you do what you believe is really helping people, then you'll be on the wrong side of management's incentives and kind of a black sheep there. Can you talk to us about that awakening process that you've gone through?
Well, part of the awakening process is when you're in a room full of 30, 40 people, and you have, now remember, we're talking about people's retirement accounts, their IRAs, their 401ks, 403bs, their life savings, and you have people yelling, "We need more sales before you guys can go home today. If you don't make it, we're going to stay here until you hit your quota." I mean, is that how you sell IRAs? Not at all. And because you're talking about somebody's life savings, you have to convince them. In this room, I'm talking, not in the normal way, but the way that where I woke up was like, whoa. So we're supposed to just do whatever to make them believe whatever, just so we can make the sale. So, and if we don't hit our quota goal for the day, we're going to stay here until you say we can leave. That was my first eye opener. So wait a minute, this is not what I signed up for. And you can't slam. I've literally heard, "What are you waiting for? Just do it. I can help you. I'm here to help. Just do this. Let's do it right now." You're pushing 60, 70, 80-year-olds into an IRA that use a high pressure and relentless pursuits. And then you're giving guarantees on top of it. And so you can see, I woke up real quick, and I knew I wanted to do something about it, and I was going to do something. That's one of the reasons, because I could have just quit and went on the outside. I would be just an outsider saying about stuff that I saw on inside, and the people would just say whatever. But I'm here, and I haven't been told to leave because I'm there because they know I can produce. But at the same time, I've been really leading people to bullion only, and I know, and so I'm looking for my next left turn or right turn to determine where I'm going to go from here, because I know it's not sure exactly, but my time is waning at this place. We'll leave it at that for now.
That's what I was going to ask you is, do you feel under direct pressure other than just the paycheck incentive, which is significant? But are the calls, recorded and reviewed and if your management says, "Hey, you keep guiding people into bullion, what are you doing?" That kind of thing.
Yeah, most definitely. Every recording, every telephone call is recorded and reviewed. They're looking for you to say certain things. If you don't, you get scolded for it, and if you don't, then it's like, and so it's really. But then you have the moral issue that your gut. It is what it is, and at this point, I haven't sold any proofs in a long time, and even before, I was still guiding people. I've always believed you have to have more ounces than you have anything else, because that's how you protect yourself, right? Through more ounces versus quality and quantity. And so there's also that other nagging factor about, what am I doing here? This isn't right. Can I make a difference and stay here? And like I said before, I'm just biding my time right now, looking for decide what else I'm going to do. And obviously, the economy's getting crazy, right? With everybody, with CBDCs on the horizon, and what that really truly means. And I've studied world history when it came to money, so I understand very well what money is and the creation of it 5,000 years ago. And that's why I believe in what I'm doing, or did believe when I got into what I was doing, I should say. And now it's like, okay, what am I going to do next? So at least my perspective is I needed to get the word out. That way, at least people can help their elderly parents, or maybe somebody who's already thinking about doing this will think, okay, well, we'll think twice about what are they being pushed in to buy. What kind of AAA rating does a Better Business Bureau have on this company? Do they have complaints? And so that's where I'm at right now, and not sure how much longer I'll be here.
So that would be another very helpful tip. Since you're on a mission to help people, you were ever since from the very beginning. If people call up a dealer and they experience what would be some red flags that they should be aware of, that if they start hearing certain things said to them or being told to take certain actions or to believe certain things or to prioritize certain things, what are some red flags you think people should be aware of that would bring them to maybe check deeper into that dealer before they move forward?
Are they trying to push you to buy something or to do something right the first time you call into the company? Because typically most people are calling in to get information, and so they can have a sense of them, so they can read it and review it. But they're really a lot of companies really pushing to try to get something done on their first call. And if not, okay, well, we'll get this to you. And then after you get it, literally 2 or 3 days later, you have relentless phone calls every day, 2 and 3 times a day, trying to get them to answer the phone and try to do something with them. It's the pressure tactics is what I would, are they being pushy? What are the pressure tactics? And are they trying to boss you around, tell you what to do when it's not their money, it's your money? And I think that's probably the biggest thing is you're in charge until you say otherwise. They can't make you do anything. So you really need to, those things, pressure tactics. Are they trying to force you through the verbal communication to do something? I've heard people berate people on the phone saying, what are you waiting for? Just do it. I mean, is that the way you sell an IRA? I don't think so.
Well, it rings 2 more bells for me, and that is when we are helping people establish a precious metals IRA in the first place, we don't do it directly because we're the dealer, we're not the custodian. But one of the forms that we have to fill out as a dealer for some custodians is a statement of what our typical range of premiums are above spot price for either gold or for silver. And I thought, well, that's an interesting question for a IRA custodian to be asking. But we go ahead and fill it out and send it in, and we've never had any trouble. But when I started hearing some of these numbers from some of the clients complaining to me about some of the IRA dealers that they've worked with of 50% or 100% or 250% or more premiums, I start to understand, whoa, I can see why there's a reason for diligence on the part of the custodian to see what kind of markups is this dealer typically charging people. And the second one is clients who've had trouble getting the bank to send out wires for their personal purchases, not IRA purchases, but just their personal purchases, have getting cross-examined by banks saying, well, how well do you know this dealer? And have you looked up for complaints against them online, and this on and on like that. And it's seemed like unnecessary obstructions being put in people's way to try to get their own money out of the bank. And that's the aspect of it that was obvious to them and to us, is they're trying to accomplish something and the bank's kind of getting in their way.
Yeah, I will tell you that process that you just mentioning is getting longer and longer and longer. And I know that we've talked about, actually you've talked about, I should say, that the process to get your money out of the banking system is actually getting longer and longer and longer. And don't be surprised if the banking system itself doesn't put curbs on the amount that customers can get out when things get really crazy, which we're going down that way. So I know people just, you got $1 million in the bank, and the bank, curbs are fighting every tooth and nail to make sure the customers are withdrawing their funds. But at the last, they have to start threatening them. And even then, they still try to fight it tooth and nail to keep as much as they can.
And I had interpreted that up till now as far as weakness in the bank's balance sheet and them trying to protect themselves, the banks. But it just has occurred to me through this discussion that the fact that there are some non-competitive, I would say, predatory dealers out there would be another explanation that I hadn't considered before. That's actually a legitimate role on the part of the bank to make sure that people have done their diligence as far as knowing who they're dealing with. And so I guess Andy Schechtman's talk about this as a federally non-regulated industry, the bullion industry, that there are some bad actors out there, and they are giving the industry a bad name, and it is impacting ordinary people who are trying to deal with legitimate dealers, trying to just get ordinary transactions done because the banks have seen people get burned from some unscrupulous dealers. So
right. I believe that there is some truth to that, but I believe that the banks are still, like what you had said, they're fighting tooth and nail to keep as much money as they can in their own institutions. They don't want it to outflow to anybody if they can. But you're right. The other, if I don't know that specifically the banks are trying to protect the customer as much as they're trying to protect the money so it doesn't leave their institution. But it's, there's something to be said for both sides of what you just said.
And the bottom line, it sounds like, is as people go to take care of their own household, their own retirement, their own financial future by getting into sound assets, they want to make sure they're doing it with a reputable dealer that doesn't overcharge and doesn't do this gouging and this predatory practices. Anything else that you haven't shared about the sort of the sales pitch or the pressure or the justification that's given to clients on why they should pay for these high priced products rather than just straight up bullion, just so people can be kind of more savvy as shoppers when they're going to try to get their precious metals?
Yeah. What I would say is, be careful about companies that are just trying to push you improved coins. And you may not know exactly until they already have your money what they plan on helping you buy. That's part of what I would ask is say, look, once my money's come in, what are you going to be looking at for me? Are you looking to put me all improved coins? Are you going to put me in specialty coins that are in 4 and 3 sets where you're charging me large amounts of money? Are you going to put me mostly in bullion? And so those would be the things that I would check to see what are their plans for you once they have your money in hand. Because when they have your money in hand, at that point, I would say you're still in charge until they actually physically buy the gold or silver. Because I've known some people who have backed out at the last moment because they just maybe it was family or whatever. So I would double check with what do they focusing on putting you in. What are they going to buy with your funds when it comes in, and is that what you want to be in? And again, I always say the more ounces, the better. So that would be my right. And obviously, then are they pressuring you and trying to force you into something right now versus giving you a day or two to think about it? And so if they're not trying to give you a day or two or a week to think about it, they may be at that point looking out for their own best interest and not yours.
Well, we are grateful that you came forward and volunteered to serve as a whistleblower here from the inside, sort of the belly of the beast, and let people know what you're subject to. It sounds like there's a lot of pressure on you and pressure on your fellow salespeople to push people in a direction that benefits management, and then they're going to get some benefit from that as well, but the client not necessarily. And it takes a lot of guts to step forward and to talk about this. We're grateful that you did. And our channel, founded in 2013, has always been about awareness and preparedness. And awareness has to start with understanding what's out there and the choices that people or the situations they may be subject to. And so here, we were always trying to alert people to risks, in the environment, whether it was financial risks or physical risks or that sort of thing, natural disasters, how to prepare. It wasn't just until the last month or so that we realized, wait a minute, there's risks just in the service providers that are supposedly there to help people. That's a real risk to people as well. Because if the government's already debasing our currency and the banking system's already threatening to bail in our funds and stuff, and now you've got the dealers who are trying to help them supposedly set up an IRA, preying on them and being predatory on them as well. That's another risk. Didn't know about that one, and here we are trying to get the word out. So you're stepping up to serve as a whistleblower here has been very helpful to all of our viewers. And if they submit enough specific questions, we may have to have you back on to answer some of those specific questions. But just really grateful for your volunteering to tell us your story.
Right, and I think I'd add one more thing. I think Andy Checkman said this before: is that look out for companies that are only pushing IRAs. I believe you said that a couple times on your show. And if that's all they're pushing, then beware.
Do you interpret that to mean because the clientele are typically elderly and more easily influenced and susceptible to pressure tactics, and that they typically have a big nest egg that they've spent a whole lifetime amassing, so it's especially fruitful for those dealers?
Most definitely. Think about it. People who are retirement age, you're 60 years old, 70 years old, 80 years old. You spent the last 30, 40 years amassing whatever you have in your 401ks or your IRAs. They're the most susceptible to be taken advantage of. And that's why I believe one reason that some of your previous hosts have said, beware of those who are just pushing IRAs, and that's all they're pushing.
Well, thank you for that, and very grateful for your presence here with us. It's been very meaningful and very impactful for ordinary people to stand up and share their story, because it helps all of us to learn through your eyes, what you've seen. You're on the inside, and what you're going through, and the pressure that you're subject to. And we're just thankful for your coming forward and educating all of us about this.
Well, I appreciate having an opportunity to both you and to your audience. Thank you for having me.
Very well. Thank you so much. Take care.
Bye-bye.
Miles Franklin Precious Metals is one of America's oldest and most trusted bullion dealers. Miles Franklin is A+ rated and accredited by the Better Business Bureau, licensed and bonded, and has 0 complaints ever registered. Here at Liberty and Finance, we are licensed brokers with Miles Franklin. To order, simply call us, discuss your needs, and we will let you know our live inventory, prices, and availability, and lock in your order over the phone. Once your order is locked, the price is held for you regardless of market fluctuations, and the metals are reserved for you awaiting your settled payment. Within 1 business day of ordering, you will receive an email invoice detailing the order and payment instructions. Miles Franklin accepts payments by bank wire, ACH or electronic check, money order, check mailed priority mail, and cryptocurrency. The fastest forms of payment are bank wire and cryptocurrency. Upon settled payment, metals will ship out within 3 to 5 business days. You will receive tracking information via email. Domestic shipping charges are $15 for any order under 500 ounces of silver or 10 ounces of gold. For orders larger than that, domestic shipping is free. The package will be double boxed, fully insured, and labeled discreetly, with no indication of the contents inside. For your privacy, the name Miles Franklin will not even be on the package. To talk to myself, Elijah, my brother Kaiser, or my father Dunnigan, call 1-888-81-LIBERTY. That's 1-888-815-4237.